What's up, everybody? It's ET, and we're gonna go at it, right? So, I haven't really looked at what I was doing. I just jumped on my computer, literally got up off the couch and jumped on the computer. So, what am I gonna be doing today? Um, we're gonna do, I think, more serialization. So, one of the key components is to serialize all these objects. So that's what I'm working on right now. So here we go. Alright. So let me see where I ended up here. How's game object serialization looking? So I'm gonna get this minimize this for now, minimize everything except Unity engine and example game for now. Alright, so game object. I know we're working on this. So serializing, we get the layers. Okay, let me think about the overall process of this. And shoot, I should have taken a picture of my notes, but I don't remember where I was with everything. Thinking. Alright. So the game object looks pretty good. Another thing I want to add though, and this might be in the Unity engine, but for now I'll add it just to example game. New item. I want to call this world update. And so world update is going to kind of do what server controller is doing, but it's just going to be the actual packet that gets sent. So if I look at server controller, we can, oh, that's the meta file. If we look at server controller.cs, we can see it's making a packet by putting the server name, the tick rate, update rate, and all of this. So this is what I want to do. World update. It's be a public class. It's gonna have these things like string name. I'll just make it all public for right now. Where's the other server controller? So you got server name, tick rate, public int tick rate, public int update rate. I forgot what the difference was. And then public int tick. And then public list of components using this components and public list game object. And there we go. And we're just gonna have two functions here. So, alright, the constructor is just going to be nothing. It's just going to be a nice empty constructor. There we go. Alright, this next one is going to be a static function, and it's going to be called deserialize. So it's going to be world update deserialize. And that's going to be something. For now, it's just going to be a new world update, but we're going to do a lot more later. And besides that, we're also going to have a public byte array. And this is going to be serialized. So this is going to turn this object into an array of bytes. Okay, so how I like to do serialize, I like to make in a list of bytes first. Let's call it bytes. And at the end of the day, this will return bytes. But alright, how do we start getting bytes? This is what I want to do. I want to say bytes dot add name. And honestly, let's see, get bytes, serialize. And it's going to say, hey, you don't have that function yet. And I really want to make that function. So here in util, we can go ahead and make, let's see, I guess I can call it get bytes. I'm going to call it serialize. So these are going to be for like objects that are not specified or kind of built-in objects. So this would be public static string, serialize, and it's going to take a string, this string, str, and we're going to get a list of bytes. I know I'm going to have tons of lists, but hopefully it won't hurt too bad, I guess. Alright, so here we go. New list of bytes. The string. Let's see. Bytes. Bytes.add string dot length. Okay. We'll say bit converter Yes, I'm still doing that, but I just thought of something. I want to put this in the serialization class. So there's a public static serialization, and we have serializers here. I want to do it right here for string. Public static byte array serialize this.string bit converter dot get bytes string.length. Okay. And we gotta say add range. There we go. And then bytes dot add range encoding dot ASCII dot get bytes of string. Let's see, string bytes equal this, and then we can just say string bytes dot length and bytes string bytes, and we still need that bit converter dot get bytes. Okay. Yep. Alright, so we convert the string into bytes. We add this into the list, add that to the list, and then finally we return bytes.toArray. Bytes.toArray. Alright, cool. So that is serialized. That's how you serialize a string. And then you can just say name.serialize, right? Bytes.add range. Yes, you're right. Okay, so we've just added the string. Bytes.add range. We can even do the same for the int. So to do that for the int, we can just say public static bytes of this int. and we'll say integer, and that's pretty easy. Okay. You probably don't even need to do all of that. You can just probably say return to bit converter. Okay, that's pretty easy. I like that. So now all we have to say is string.bytes.length.serialize. Nice. Okay. So we got length.serialize, bytes. Cool. Update rate.serialize, tick.serialize, and components.serialize, game objects.serialize. We'll see. Okay. So you can either deserialize with the byte queue data, and hopefully that's what I will end up doing. All right. So let me look at component serialize. So if I look at my serialization, so really all I'm dealing with as of right now is close all but this and my world update. All right. So we serialize an integer, we can serialize a string. Okay, so we're serializing that, serializing that. What does our list of components do? We're just serializing the IDs. Serialize IDs. Serialize IDs. Or we can actually serialize the entire thing. So that's the other thing. So if I said public static byte serialize, and I did this list of components, it'll say components serialization. Bonzo Apps, hello. Nice seeing you, buddy. Alright, so serializing a list of components. So we're going to do something very similar to this, right? But instead of doing that, we're going to add the range of... Yeah, I'm so excited I can like go down here. Like I can, instead of saying convert this to bit converter, I can just say i.serialize, and that will work. And I like it. And we can do count.serialize. Bam. So this is not the one I wanted to do this to, but Yes, this is how you do it. When I do serialize IDs, that's how I can do it. Bam. And I can do that here. Transform.getInstanceID.serialize. Love C# on that. Okay, back to serializing the actual list of components. So instead of getting just the instance ID, I want to actually run the serialize on the actual component. So bam, that is how you serialize a component. So we're trying to make everything a thing of bytes. So we can make that a byte, we can make this a byte. A list of ints serialized by that. Where am I? Okay, I'm serializing this component. So I'm just saying component that serialize all of that, and return it. That's actually not too bad. And then at the end here, I just take the size of it, and I can now get rid of bit converter, and I can just say serialize. Alright, cool. So the only place I should have bit converter is there at serialize. So if I see bit converter elsewhere, which I do, I can just serialize it here. Anywhere else do I see bit converter? Bit converter. Yep. Bit converter. The deserialization. Okay. For deserialization, I want to take like a byte array, or actually a byte queue. If I can take a byte queue, and I can actually just implement this in I can do this in the bytes. Byte queue, here we go. We got some of this DQ stuff, but here's some other cool functions we can add here. Byte. We can like get an int, and we'll just say like get int 32. And this would be return bit converter dot to int 32 dq 4, and the index will be this. So that's how we can get an int 32. We can get a byte, get byte and dq are the same thing, so maybe I won't worry about that. Yeah, for the heavier things I'll do it in here, but like for the built-in functions, oh, string's another good one. Get string. Int size equals get int 32, and then return encoding dot ASCII dot get string yep. Bytes will be, yeah, just whatever I do here, DQ, and we can say the number will be size. There we go, and that's how you get a string. Int 32 and string seems to be some of the bigger ones. Oh, and a float would be nice too, right? Public float get single return bit converter dot to single dq 4 0. So Now here, instead of saying all of this, I should be able to say data dot get int 32. Yep. And what am I doing here? Deserialization dot add. Oh, deserialization's list. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? And then we can just say data dot get int 32. Okay, so that is the deserialization. What else we got? Some other deserializations. So here, this is all just some refactoring that I'm doing. It's good stuff though. It'll make the code easier later when I'm messing more with these functions. Data dot get int 32. All right, cool. So we got a serialize function, and we got some pretty good functions on my byte queue. Alright, what else do we need to do here? So in world, oh yeah, we're serializing components. Sorry, I lose track sometimes. Alright, so when we're looking at component serialize, are we doing anything yet? We are not. Well, because this is a virtual, so you shouldn't really have an object that serializes. So even component shouldn't serialize, but like transform should serialize. So if we look at transform, yeah, you do serialize. So here we go. Let's see what you're doing. I'm going to call you serialize. Alright. Children serialize IDs. Perfect. So for the for the components, we are serializing everything, but for the children, we're only getting their IDs. We're not actually serializing the entire thing. I think I can just throw this in here. Well, either way, you should be able to say parent ID dot serialize. Oh, I see I undid this accidentally. Serialize. Alright. So that's all serialize, serialize, serialize. Perfect. Okay. Now let's deserialize. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna go to my world update and this is not where I'm serializing. I guess I have my deserialization. How do I deserialize something? I usually make a new instance of it, so yep, that sounds good. We'll just say transform deserialization equals new transform. Count or size. I kind of think that's a misnomer here, that count. This should be size. Do you need size? I don't know that you need size, because everything we're putting in here, that's a constant size, that's a constant size, constant size. Oh, children is not a constant size. Serialization.insert range 0. We should say serialization.size .length .count .serialize. Maybe. I'll think about that. But for now, that's good. That way we have it. Um, I think I'm gonna take it out already. I'm already not liking it. Alright, so we made a new transform. Not even gonna do this. I'm gonna say deserialization dot get deserialization dot what? Local rotation. Local rotation equals data dot get. This might be a vector 3. But we can put it into serialization, deserialization. Nah, we can just say no, it's actually a quaternion. Quaternion that deserialize data. So we're gonna have to do that function too. So I think I can just say generate method. Okay. Deserialization dot local next one's position equals vector 3 dot deserialize or get create deserialize data. And deserialization dot local scale equals vector 3 dot deserialize data. And deserialization dot children equals how do I do this? List deserialization dot list of transforms actually. So I don't have that one yet. So I think we serialized it. But we didn't deserialize it. Alright. List transform. Thinking. Why can't I do this right? How would I want this to read? I guess I would like to say list or just get transform. Get list transform data. Get list transform. Might do this everywhere. Get list components. Get list int. Alright. I like that. And this is going to be a byte queue. And that'll be data. Alright. And you would totally give me a list of transforms, right? List of transforms. Okay. So we have local rotation, local position, local scale. Alright, so that's the children. Deserialization dot parent equals deserialization dot get guess get transform, right? Or actually, this would be more transform.deserialize. Because deserialization parent is what? A transform, right? That's what I thought. That is something we're missing. What about the instance ID? But I won't worry about that. Transform dot find objects. I want to do one more object thing, but then this wouldn't really work. Oh yeah, that's okay. Internal static object. Is that what you're saying? You're gonna give me an object? Object find object by instance ID. Int instance ID for each object. Obj in objects if obj dot instance ID equals instance ID, return obj, else return null. And this is actually internal, not interface. And there we go. So we just say find object by instance ID or of instance ID. Of instance ID, sure. And data.get int32. Okay, so that seems good. So we deserializing it, we're getting the quaternion, the local position, scale, children, and parents. What else are we doing? We need... I think that's it. Alright, so that's all you're getting from this guy. So I do feel like we're missing something, and that is instance ID. So can I set instance ID here? I guess not. So that's to create an object protectedly. Let's go internal, internal. Or, yeah, let's just go internal, set instance ID, int instance ID, and this is what we'll do. Okay, while, let's just say this. Find object of instance ID, next ID, does not equal null, then you increment it. So once it is equal to null, it will continue onwards. Okay. So I really don't need this anymore. And then something like this. If find object of instance ID, instance ID. So once this is null, this will quit. Okay, and once if this is null, if this is true, then do this next line. And this next line will be, hey, if you do have an instance ID, while this, basically this line, I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses, while that next ID plus plus, and you might not even need to do next ID plus plus at all, and then, shoot, I better just say object. Sorry, I don't mind doing it twice. So if you find that, just say that set instance ID to next ID. And then next ID plus plus. And then you can set this instance ID, this dot instance ID equals instance ID. Instance ID. Instance ID. Is that wrong? Yeah, I might be misspelling it or something. Oh, it has a capital D on it. Okay. Yeah, that seems good. Else is easy. This dot instance ID equals instance ID. And this can be a void. And next ID can totally have a lowercase d. Okay, I feel pretty good with all of that. So set instance ID is that. You just make sure that there's no instance ID. If it isn't, then you just go ahead and just set it. Otherwise, you reassign this guy, which I'm not sure if it's best practice. Or better yet, throw new exception. What kind of exceptions do we have? Exception handling. Argument exception, yeah. instance ID already exists. Alright, cool. I like it. Alright. So that's one thing I guess I want to try to do is on these serializations. Serializations that add range. And then we can just say get instance ID dot serialize. Because it totally should have the ID. And then right when you deserialize, you can say deserialization dot set instance ID can be data dot get int 32. And there you go. So that all looks fine and dandy. So add range, get instance ID, serialize, and then you get the local rotation, local position, local scale. Okay, that looks great. I'm cool with that. So let's work back here. So for components, you're going to serialize. Actually, you're just going to serialize. And so when you serialize, you're going to go to each component and you're going to serialize. So hopefully you don't just do this serialization, but you'll do the override, which will be like transform. You will serialize just fine. What other things need to serialize? So if we go to server to use the Unity client here, so we did that. Ooh, mono behavior. That one's going to be tough. Transform we got. Game object we got. Transform, got it. Rigid body. Alright, let's do rigid body. So rigid body is going to be here. And I'm going to just drag this out for now. You know what? I'll have it on both screens so we can both see it. And we can unpin this for now. Okay, this is box collider. I don't know why that came up. Alright. So we're just going to go out here at the end. Maybe after all these crazy functions, we'll do public byte array serialize. Serialize? Is that what I'm calling it? And so when we serialize, what happens? Serialization, nope, object, transform. Yeah, serialize. Just making sure. And I'm making it. No, this serialize is not static. Okay. So I'm going to copy all of this. And I'm going to tab it over. And now we're going to work on it. Control KC, so I don't have crazy things. Alright, list. Always a list of bytes. That's what, when I'm serializing things, that's how I'm going to start. Have you worked with Unreal Engine 4 at all? I have not. Why do you ask? New list of bytes. Bytes. Dot add range. The first one I'm going to add is my instance ID, so let's go ahead and add that instance ID. Serialize. Excellent. Bytes dot add range. Let's start doing these things, which I don't have, but let's see, 2, 3, 2, 3. Object, prefab, prefab, prefab. Oh yeah, I don't know. I could use like C Sharp's just built-in serialization, but on my last episode we saw that there's just way too much overhead. Like for like a 2 byte class, I had a class with 2 public members of byte. It was like 150 bytes to serialize that, and so I thought, man, I gotta reduce this down by like 20-30 times, maybe more. So that's why I'm doing it like this. Because just passing some bytes is no big deal, man. But writing all this is kind of a pain in the butt. But I just have to write it once and done. Alright, so add range. We're going to get... we're going to have to first determine what our game object is. Oh, here we go. Int game object ID equals game object. If it's null, if it's not null, game object dot get instance ID. Otherwise, we're just gonna pass in 0. And then we can just say game object ID dot serialize. Bam! Love that serialize function that I added. All right, so bytes dot add range. Serialized version that serialize, which is not a thing yet. When I hit page up, my bad. Alright, so you're done. Alright, all this other stuff does exist, so let's go ahead and do that. Add range, mass, dot serialize. Ooh, time to add another serialization class here. Serialize float. Single. Sweet. Alright, so now that's serializing. Drag, angular drag, use gravity, is kinematic, interpolate, constraints, collision detection. Drag, no problem. Angular drag, no problem. Use gravity, no big problem. Okay, and I know why, because it's a bool. Boolean, no problem now, right? We got it? Alright, good deal. Is kinematic minus the I and the M thing. What about interpolate? We're gonna have to, I guess I can cast it, right? Let's double parentheses this sucker up. Are you a full stack indie dev, or do you work with the team on this project? Am I a full stack indie dev? I don't even know what that means, man. No, I'm just by myself, man. I just work here on my own. Interpolation, constraints. I don't even know what constraints is. Oh, let's go ahead and make that an int. And collision detection. Oh, I'm guessing this is also going to be some kind of int that we have to force. Collision detection mode. Alright, cool. I almost just want to make these bytes, but I could do that later. One man show? Yeah, man. You better believe it. You better believe it. Yeah. The only problem with the one-man show is it's slow as molasses, man. Slow as molasses. Alright, I'm not even done. Let's return, right now we called it bytes. Bytes dot to array. And I don't usually call this bytes, I call it serialization. Alright, so that's good. And then we gotta do the opposite. So we serialized. Oh, what's wrong with this? Oh, I know what's going on. It's gotta be, you know what I forgot to do? It's an override, because we are already doing this in another class. We gotta use all that polymorphism. So that's what I just did. Alright, public. Let's go the other way. How do we go the other way? What are we doing? Rigid body. Deserialization. Actually, yeah. Public, or I don't know whether I should make it public or internal. I'm kind of torn right now. Deserialization. And that's too many letters. Just deserialize, please. Alright, so to do this, we're going to say rigid body equals new rigid body. We're going to return to rigid body eventually. And now we're going to go the other way. Oh, and we're going to actually pass in what we're deserializing. So byte should be a byte queue. It's a class I made, and it'll be data. And so rigid body dot set instance ID. Is that not a thing? I swore I made that a thing. Component, yep, component is a type of object. An object has a set instance ID. Alright, let's just make it public for now, I guess. What am I doing wrong? I mean, I see what's happening. I have a physics rigid body, which is this. Okay. So I have to do this lowercase body. Shoot. And let me go back to object right quick. Let's keep that internal, because I really don't want other programs using this. It's just for my serialization, deserialization. Alright, so set instance ID is going to be data.getInt32. Nice. Okay, let's keep it going. Rigid body. So we got the instance ID. What's the next thing we're gonna get? So this is the instance ID, right? Whoa, am I doing it twice? Serialization.add. Oh, the next one's to get the game object. So rigid body.game object equals, how am I handling the other one? The transform for game object. Find object of instance ID. Nice. So this is going to be a rigid body. No, it's going to be a game object. And we're just going to say find object of instance ID. And we'll just say data.getInt32. Okay. So that is the game object. What else are we doing? Mass equals data.get single. Rigid body dot drag equals data dot get single. Rigid body dot angular drag equals data dot get single. Okay, let's keep it going. Rigid body dot use gravity equals data dot get bool. Oh, we don't have data dot get boolean. Let's make it. So this one should be pretty easy. Should live only in 1 byte, I hope. So I should be able to say dq and to bool. We better just say 1. Alright, cool. Rigid body dot use is kinematic equals data dot get boolean. Rigid body dot interpolation equals whatever I'm doing, interpolation, rigid body interpolation, rigid body interpolation, data dot get int32. I feel like I'm going to kind of do this thing a couple times, so we're going to do constraints and collision detection mode. And constraints is going to be whatever this is. What was it? Rigid body constraints. This is going to be just collision detection mode. Okay, cool. So we got those enumerations. All that data. Alright, cool. And make sure we're returning the right kind of thing. Public rigid body. Public static. I like it to be static too, because you only need deserialize for 1. So make a new rigid body and do all that. Okay, cool. This is what I like to do here at the top. If, oh, this is how I'm going to really do it. Alright. Int instance ID equals. Right away, I'm getting the instance ID, no matter what. And so here I'm going to say instance ID. Now I'm going to say if find object of type or of ID, instance ID, then we're going to return can we just do this? I'll do this twice, why not? As rigid body. Oh no, even better, even better. This is what I'm going to do. Put this at the top. Don't even make a new object just yet. So if you find it, you're going to say rigid body equals this. Else, you're going to do the 2 things. Rigid body equals new rigid body. And set instance ID. There you go. That's how we're going to handle it, yeah? And I might just flip it because I'm weird like that. I like to have this on the top and this at the bottom. I don't know, I like that, how that looks better. Alright, and then you just set all this stuff exactly the same, whether you had it already or not. I wish I could just set the instance ID right there, but I guess not. That's okay. Okay, so that's how that works. I might do the same here. I'm gonna go a little crazy here. I'm gonna make just something to make this a little bit more readable, or a little easier to read for me. Internal static t find object of instance, find or create object of instance ID, and we'll make it a generic, and here's our instance ID. I can make this big again. Okay, so this one is going to find or create the object of instance ID. And so first, we're going to kind of just do exactly what we did here in the rigid body. So if here, let's just paste it. If find object of instance ID, then this is easy. We should be able to return. Alright. Let's see. Maybe we should also preface this by saying t obj, and then we say obj equals find. I've had this problem before. Who is helping me? I think this object is helping me. Yeah, convert that change type. Okay. Convert that change type object, and then we'll just make t change type t. You don't have any of that, do you? Okay, sorry. I was just testing some stuff out. Alright, so we're going to convert this object of the generic. So we're going to say convert that change type. The object what am I doing? You do it here anyway. Convert dot change type. Find oh gosh, so much code just got inserted there. Find object of instance ID. And we'll just say instance ID. And we gotta change it to some type, so we can say t.getType. Right? Is that not how we work it? Not the other way we can do it, is just say type of t. And then we can just cast this to t. Alright, cool. So that's how we get to convert that. Find object of instance ID t. So before I even do that, this is what I'm going to do. Object obj equals alright, so this is how I'm going to roll. First I'm going to say, hey, object, find object of that ID. If object does not equal null, basically, we're going to return the t version of convert.change type obj to type of t. So hopefully that makes sense. Else we gotta create it, right? So we gotta say activator.create instance of t. Is there any arguments? No. Alright, that wasn't actually too bad. It was a little better than I thought. Alright, so this is what we're doing. For this generic method, we're going to say find or create object of instance ID. Oh, I got to set the instance ID too. Totally forgot to do that. I also want to say where t is obj, where t is of object. Is that how you do it? So I also want to imply or say that t is an object, so that when I actually do create the instance, like object new object equals this, then I can just say new object dot set instance ID, and that should be fine. Oh, and return new object. As t. Or maybe I can just say t, right? Oh good, so I don't need to do any of this other casting. Alright, so t new object equals activator create instance of t, new object set instance, and then new object. Okay, that's it. So we have this find or create object of instance ID. So this should be even easier. So now we can just say rigid body equals find or create object of instance ID. We can say rigid body, and then we can actually give it the instance ID, where in fact it's really just data.get int32. Delete that. Delete all of this. And that makes it a little easier, right? So we say find or create object of instance ID. Yeah, I like that. Alright. And we just do the same here. Find or create object of instance ID transform, and we just say data.get int32. Alright, and here's the cool thing about this. Now I can make the function that I was worried about people using private. And no one needs to worry. So okay, so now to deserialize, you can find or create object of instance ID. That's awesome. Transform does the same thing. And what I kind of like to do is just count the lines right quick before finishing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, good. Just making sure I get all the properties, because order is very important here, and so is the number of imports you're getting from the data. So, because if you can imagine, there's going to be this long line of bytes, and so you got to make sure you grab enough of them, take them out, and then work with what you have left. And every one of these things is like serialized in the perfect order, so you got to like put it in and take it out in the exact order. So yes. So just looking at some stuff to serialize or not serialize. Let's do the sphere collider, and I guess I can try a, let's see, a sphere collider and a box collider, and that's the ones I'll work on for today. So if I go to my solution, I should totally have a sphere collider. Alright, so we're going to have public byte array serialize. You see, and I did that again. I really should be overriding serialize. Okay, so what am I to be doing here? I'm serializing. So, okay, I like to start off with the list of bytes. And serialization sounds good. Equals new list of bytes. Good first thought is usually to serialize the add range. It's always good to add the instance ID first. Get instance ID dot serialize. What else do we like to do? We like to get some other stuff, and it's helpful to see what Unity has done when they serialize their things. So if we look at their sphere collider, wherever it may be, we can just copy and paste this and serialize just this. So that is what I am going to do. Totally screwed that up. No worries though, it doesn't really matter because it's just for my reference. Okay, so we're gonna object hide flags. That's serialized. It's not a real thing right now because I haven't implemented that in my version of Sphere Collider or object. Thinking I should though. Why not, right? So I may. Object hide flags. Protect it. Int. Or is it bool? I'll make it an int for now. Bool. Sorry. Object hide flags. Protect it. Object. Prefab. I don't even know what it was. Sphere collider. Prefab parent object and prefab internal. Prefab parent object. Protect it object. Prefab internal. Yeah. And so now maybe that will be a little more helpful when I'm serializing and stuff. So serialization add range. Prefab parent object dot serialize. The problem here for this one in particular is if it's null, it's not going to be good. I might make them just ints for now. This is a horrible idea to do convert to object serialization 2. Alright, so that's all done. Serialization add range game object that serialize deserialization dot shoot. I just realized even in sorry, just thinking. Like, I don't want to have to type that in every one, but I guess I have to. So, alright, so if I say game object question mark game object dot get instance ID dot serialize or 0 dot serialize, and then I could do the same with the other stuff too. Might as well. I don't like having this looming over me. I hate to-dos. To-dos just means I'm too lazy to do them now. So alright, let's just handle it. Totally need to do it there too. But I'm working on Sphere Collider right now. So prefab parent object and prefab internal. And then this is how I'm going to roll with it. Just say this question mark that, or oops, or 0 dot serialize. And kind of same thing here. U question mark or 0 dot serialize. Okay. That's all good. I can make this big now since I have it all here. Okay. So we got parent prefab serialize or 0 dot serialize. Okay, so that's all good. That's all good. Serialization dot add range. So we got game object material. Ooh. Material dot get, who even knows, right? But I feel like it's going to be very similar, so I'm going to just copy and paste this and just say material physics material. We're going to put the actual code in here. Material equals null. Material that serialize. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to do this. Maybe get instance ID that serialize. Otherwise, don't. I have no idea. This is not going to happen though. Alright, back to normal stuff. Serialization that is trigger. Sorry, not a thing. Is trigger that serialize. Serialization that add range. Enabled that serialize. Serialization that add range. Serialized. I'm going to put this one as a serialized version. Got serialize. Oh, you don't know what it is yet. So go to object. Totally gonna make this a thing. Protect it, int, serialized version. Okay. And now the fun stuff, finally. Add range, radius equals serialize, and serialize dot add range, center dot serialize. Okay, good. And then finally, return serialization dot toArray. So okay, the other one is internal static sphere collider deserialize and then a byte key. Whew. Work, work, work. Okay, so we're going to do sphere collider. I think I like naming it what it is. Find or create instance sphere collider, and the instance ID is going to be data.get int32. Because hopefully at the beginning I got the instance and serialized it. Yes. Okay, and then we just do the rest of it. So we just say sphere collider dot I don't even remember what we did. Okay, object hide flags equals data dot get int32 sphere collider dot prefab parent object equals find object of instance ID data dot get int32 sphere collider dot prefab internal equals find object of instance ID data dot get int32. Oh, the joy, the fun of writing serializers. Find object instance ID data.get int32. And if you actually do find something, you're actually a game object. We skipped the material, so let's do sphere collider.isTrigger is find, nope, what am I doing? Data equals data.getBool. Thanks, man. Mozilla, thank you so much, dude. I try. Hopefully I only have to do this once, man, and then I get to put it away forever. Alright, sphere collider enabled. Sphere collider dot serialized version. That's going to be, I think, an int32. And the radius, okay, good. One of the main things about this class, we're going to say sorry, just looking at stuff. Data dot get. This is a single, right? Radius is just a float. Yeah. And then the center is a vector 3, so I should just say data dot. Oh no, it's not data. It's vector 3 dot deserialize data. So I changed it up there, because the vector 3 is my making, not anyone else's making, like singles and ints and all of that. Alright. And then finally, we return sphere collider. Okay. I think that's good. Here's the thing. I think some of this stuff is repeated. So like, all of this is repeated, I believe. So I can actually probably put this in the collider class above, but I won't. But I could. Sorry. Yeah. Alright. Is there anything else I want to do before I go a little crazy and try to serialize this thing? So I think for components, we're pretty good. I'm going to bring this Unity scene back into this window. So when we're serializing, we're not going to serialize the scripts, but we will serialize the... This is what we will serialize out of this this thing. Scene settings, no. Render settings, no. List light map settings, no. Nav mesh settings, no. Game object, yes. Mono behavior, not now. Transform, yes. Game object, yes. Transform, yes. Rigid body, yes. Sphere collider, yes. And I think that's it for this guy. So, why? Why did we do all of this? Because we want to transfer this over the network to a Unity client. So this is all going to happen on my dedicated server on a console, and it's going to send this data to the Unity client. So, oh, I'm not done yet. We have more work to do, so I might just be ending on serialization. So sorry, I wanted to start on the networking, but maybe I'm just not there yet, because I still got one very important one to do, and that's game objects. I believe I've already finished the game object serialization, but I'm going to take a quick look at it. Game object, closer to the bottom. Alright, so serialization, yep, equals new that. Okay, I'm going to uncomment some of this stuff out. This stuff is good, and the other thing is I want to delete all of that, so we're actually good there too. And we actually now have new awesome serialized functions. And then we'll just say prefab parent object dot serialize, otherwise 0 dot serialize. Prefab internal dot serialize, otherwise 0 dot serialize. Dot serialize. And this is all add range. Alright, so components dot serialize ID, perfect. Layer dot serialize, perfect. We got a nice, for strings, we finally have a nice dot serialize here. For tag, we have a nice serialized function, so that's good. Those things I haven't really played with. Active self dot serialize. And I'm not sure if I even have to put the size. I know I've been trying to force it, but I don't think I need to put the sizes in there. I think this is good. Alright, so the other stuff is going to be good too. Data.getInt. Yeah, I've come a long way since the first time I was doing this. Not a long way, but it's a lot nicer now. Find object of instance ID, data.getInt32. Yep. Find object of instance ID, data.getInt32. Serialized version, data.getInt32. Components, deserialization, get list components of data. Why is that not good? I'll figure it out. I have an idea why that's not working, but we'll get there in a second. Layer.get. Nope, what am I doing? Data.getInt32. Oops. Data.getString. Data.getString. Ignore the next three. Data.get bool. Awesome. Alright, so this guy, he's our troublemaker right now. Because we're giving him a list of ints when really we should give him a list of components. Alright, so when we serialize it, I just want to make sure I'm serializing the right thing. Alright, or better yet, serialization.addRange components.count .serialize. So first I'm going to say I'm going to add how many components do we have, and then I'm going to serialize each of their IDs, right? And so when we deserialize, I'm going to get the count, and basically we're going to just do a simple for loop for int I equals 0, I less than count, I plus plus. We'll just say components equals, you don't have to say anything. So we're going to say if, I'm going for it, let's do it this way, component equals find game object, or just object that find object of instance ID, data that get int 32, that should be fine, right? And this will be of component type. And then you just say if component deserialization add component. Cool. And then you return to deserialization. Alright, so that's how you get the list of components, and that works fine. Alright, what's the other thing we gotta do? List of game objects, right? Let's do it. So how do you serialize a list of game objects? I want to do this as well. Serialize, add range, components dot count dot serialize. Boom, 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 boom. All right. I went silent for a bit just because I am thinking. That serialization dot count. What am I doing? Dot add range transforms dot count dot serialize. I'm gonna kind of keep this all together. Little blobs of code, so it's a little easier to read. Maybe it's worse. Instead of counting bytes, I'm going to count ints. So instead of serialization counts, let's do numbers.count. Like that. Alright, working my way back. Let's go ahead and say count, because now you truly are count. Alright, and you are now count. Yep. Oof. Yeah, this is a mess right here. Guess I totally forgot to finish this. Okay. No problem, no problem. So I'm going to make you a list of transforms. You will be a transform. You will be a transform. What else? Why is that not a good thing? Oh. Yep, and you will be a transform. Now, I don't know why I don't just put it in here and delete this line. Same thing here. Okay, that looks much better, right? Little code niceness. Yes, and yes, this should be bytes.toArray. Wow, we're almost to no errors again, and that's going to be spectacular. Alright, let's go up here first, serialize IDs. I don't think I'm going to do serialize IDs, I think I'm going to do the actual thing. So serialize a list of game objects. Whew, alright. So, yep, you're going to be game objects. And you are also going to be game object. And you will be game object. And coming back, this is going to be public list of game object. This will be get list of game object. I kind of like it plural. Get list components, get list transforms, get list ints. I know, maybe it's not a very good get list game objects. Okay, so we're going to get a list of game objects. Totally think that's legitimate. We're going to name you Serialization. And how are we going to roll with this? We're going to say the first thing we're going to do is get int count. How many game objects are we going to get? And so this is going to be data. Oh yeah, and that's what we're not going to get game objects in here. We're just going to byte q, oops, and we'll just say data. And we'll say data dot get int32. All right. And it's not going to be a for each loop, it's going to be a for loop. Say int I equals 0, I less than count, I plus plus. And deserialization, what am I going to say? Yeah, dot add. Let's do some stuff like I did earlier. We're going to say game object equals game object dot find. I'm going to do a find or create object of instance ID. Game object data.get int32. I see I don't have to do this part, so that's good. Alright, so game object, find or create instance of that. Alright, game object. We just get to add it, right? Deserialization, not add game object. And I think we get to just return deserialization. Okay, so we got a list of game objects, right? Alright, sorry, just thinking. Get list of game objects. So when I actually serialize the game object, where's my serializing of the game objects? I serialize it, right? So when I serialize it, oh, what am I doing? I'm wrong. Here I don't actually find or create, I actually deserialize. Game object, deserialize. How does this work again? It's game object that deserialize data, right? And then you just make a new game object. And actually you don't just make a new game object, you find or create game object. Game object, create or instance game object, and it's going to be data.get int32. And that's, I guess, a key thing I forgot to do here is the first thing should always do is add range, get instance ID, serialize. So now we can get the game object and go ahead. Alright, I'm going to make an internal game object with nothing. And just really going to just do this, no name, And that's how that's going to work. Okay. So that when you actually run this, it will be okay. Because if you're going to run this, it has to have a constructor that takes 0 arguments. So you have to, because if you look at the command, I'm running this activator create instance with no arguments. So if I didn't do that, it would crash on me. So that's why I did that. All right, so deserialize looks all good. So just one count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, I feel pretty good about that. Phew. Anything else I need to do? Okay, let's see if I can world update equals new world update, return world update. Let's see what we can do here. Name, I guess we gotta do world update.name equals data.get string, no problem. World update.tick equals get int data.get int32. World update.update rate equals data.get int32. World update.tick. Oh, I wonder why I did that. I guess there was tick rate that I forgot to do. Equals data. Better do tick rate here. Tick rate equals data.get int32. And make sure that's what you're serializing. Tick rate, update rate. World update dot components equals deserialization dot get list of components data, and world update dot game objects equal deserialization dot get list of game objects data. All right. Whew. So just right quick, if I look at get list of components, I was hoping, I think I did this wrong too. When I get list of components, I really want to do what I'm doing here. No, here. Component dot Alright, there in turn lies the issue. How do we know what type of component it is? Game objects is easy. But when you're deserializing a component, you gotta know what kind of component it is. Because game object will always just be a game object. So I definitely like the idea of deserializing data. So okay, I made this function and component. But I'm thinking I might even go a step further and deserializing it here in object. Alright, this is where I'm running into issues, and this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm gonna say like command, no. Sorry. Int type object type. Let's go ahead and make this a lowercase o equals data dot get. I'm going straight for int32 for now. Sorry. So we get the object type, and then we just say, shoot, I think I'm going to need something else here. Private static map dictionary. Say an int and a type equal new dictionary. I'm gonna do this elsewhere. For now it will be here, I guess. New item. What are we gonna call it? It's gonna be, let's say, Unity YAML reference. And I'm gonna steal just this. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to call it. YAML class ID, or just class ID reference. What about that? So here we go. Ah, I already have it up. Class ID reference. And this is what I'll do. We'll say public this, public static this index. Public static, we'll say type index. This index. I. No? Alright, figured I'd try. The other thing I do is just make a enum. here's the thing with the enum. I think if I'm careful, I could just delete the whole thing. And then somewhere here on the other side of the text, I can like just go like this and put like a comma. Yeah. And then go towards the end, take out that last comma, auto format it, and there we go. We got a class reference, class ID reference. So how does this help us? When we're doing our deserialization, we can just say class ID reference, class ID reference. Yeah, so that looks good. I'm going to do this just the lazy way. I'll figure it out later. If object type equals class ID reference game object, then return deserialize or game object dot deserialize data. And we're just going to do this for several things like transform. Hopefully just kind of do it in order, right? Component, level, game manager, transform. What else do we do? Sphere collider and rigid body. So sphere collider. This would be sphere collider. Wait, what's going on with all this? It should be static, right? Okay. No problem, no problem. So we can return game object, we can return data. Let's see. Game object, transform, sphere collider, rigid body. Oops. Rigid body. So I'm going to put new keyword in front of that one, just so the warning would go away. And I'll make it internal for now. Alright, so what else are we kind of screwing up on? Cannot implicitly convert okay, so if I do component.deserialize, you will by default go to object deserialize, which is fine, and that will be a problem. So it's almost better Yeah. I say, there we go. Okay, what am I thinking now? You know what? I'm cool with this being component. Alright, what's next? Those things are my physics engine, which I haven't even touched yet. Um, Mozilla says, how long have I been programming for? It's been a couple years? 3 years? Uh, Maybe 3 years. Been a good 3 years. All hobby stuff. Try to hold a full-time job and do this, and I'm also studying at university for computer science. So they get us to program in Java, and Java and C# are very similar. So lucky me. What am I going to be doing next? So, okay, you can see here on the object deserialize, I am getting an object type, but that means I'm gonna have to serialize that. So, yeah. So that part really scares me to death. So I might have to make sure I'm running object.deserialize everywhere. Yeah, this is scaring me. My structure is kind of falling apart a little bit with the next move I'm going to make. Alright, let's make it fall apart. I'm not going to actually be using that a lot, so I'm going to delete that. Let's say deserialize 2. You're not new anymore. Yep, this is going to kill me. I'm going to be sad about it. So deserialize 2. So you see I'm not doing the rename refactoring because I really wanted to error out by me changing the function name. And it should. And so this is what I'm going to have to do. Object deserialize. And then we're just going to have to guarantee that this is a game object. Which it should be. Alright. don't like what I'm doing. Going back to just regular old deserialize. So for game object, that's fine. So I'm not going to worry about game object. But for these, I do want to worry about it. So here I go. I'm going to make this a component. Okay, so I have the component. So I'm going to take it out of object. So you're not going to serialize. And actually, I might take serialize. No, but you're virtual, so you're okay. All right. Static functions can't be virtual, right? So that's why I don't like to use a static too much if I can avoid it. See, static members can't be marked as override, blah, blah, blah. All right. You get the idea. So I'm going to make this only on components. So only components when you deserialize them. You will also have to specify an object type. So that's where it's going to get interesting. So when we're serializing it or deserializing it, yeah, that's fine. Deserialize. Maybe we just deserialize 2. Delete this. Don't need that. Yeah. I hope you see the error that I'm seeing, but if not, I could try to do a better job explaining it. Oh, you're not new anymore, so that's good. So, okay, we got sphere collider, rigid body, and transform. Sphere collider is the rigid body, and transform. Okay, cool. So, now that we got these deserialized too, these are not meant to... This is just meant to cause some errors, which I don't see, so that's good. So we can go back to the original. Or actually, you know what, just for now, I'm going to leave it as is. And you're actually going to be deserialized to people. Okay. So that's the only place I should be using deserialized to for now. So that also means in each one of my components, before I even put when I'm serializing, before I even do instance ID, I'm going to actually have to do serialization or serialization dot add range base dot serialize. And so what this will do is run this serialize. So if I go to component, internal, that's not internal, override, serialize. I'm going to kind of do this exact same thing, except the other way. Alright, if this... If this is a transform, you're going to return byte, new byte, or new int. how am I going to say this? I'm going to say class, no, we're going to say sorry, just trying to think here. Class ID reference dot transform int class ID transform dot serialize. Awesome. Okay, and that's how I'm gonna handle it. All right. So if it's transform, do that. Sphere collider and rigid body. All right. So sphere collider, rigid body. Sphere collider, rigid body. Sphere collider, rigid body. Return new byte 0. If you're not one of those classes, that's what you get, a new byte 0. Okay. Which means I haven't implemented you. So that's how I gotta do. Base.serialize. And then rigid body, same thing. Base.serialize and transform, same thing. So it runs this first, gets whatever this is, and then adds that into what you're going to return. Alright, good deal. So if I look at my components, when I deserialize, the first thing I'm going to get is that class ID reference, and then I can do something with it. Alright, now I can go back to this crazy serialization thing and figure out what I'm doing here. So it's when I'm deserializing the game is when I'm worried. No, when I'm deserializing a component. So that's here. Component.deserialize. Okay. I'm going to walk through this code now. I think we're at that point where I can finally walk through this code. So how do we even run this code, right? That's the next question. So I have this example game main. I'm going to delete all of this stuff. This was just my testing of serialization earlier. So I'm just come here, maybe here, play. And just give it a second to build, because usually that first build takes a little bit of time. Geez, 2 hours already, huh? Alright, so built, and now we stopped here, and we look at the reader. So this has two game objects. A sphere and a server controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to serialize the scene, basically, or serialize the two objects with all its components, and then we're going to deserialize it to see if we get the same thing. So to do that, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to say game object, or it doesn't have to be game object, but find objects of type. And the first thing we do is component. Well, alright. Really, this is what we're going to do. World update. World update. I don't know, using example game. Yeah, you should be example game too. I don't know why you're not example game, so I'm making the example game. World update. Dot. World update equals new world update. Okay. World update.name is going to equal test server. World update.tick is going to equal, we'll just say 10. World update.tick rate. Let's just make this a 33 milliseconds. World.tick update rate. Maybe we can make this like 16 milliseconds. World update. So you got tick rate, update rate, got name. The other two things we need to do is game objects and components. So I'm going to say components equals new list of components, and we can put a range in here, right? And the range I'm going to put is object dot find objects of type, and we'll say component. Alright. I don't know what you're saying here. Oh, I see. Yeah, make it a Unity engine object. And if what's probably helpful is just make this a game object or component, even better, right? Component. Yeah, I like component better. Alright, and then we can say game object, find object of type game object. And this should actually be game object. And I don't know what's wrong here. Oh, and you should be game object. Alright, so I'm just going to hit play here just to make sure I'm going to start serializing the right stuff. So I'm going to hit play. It totally didn't break and something else broke. Ah, what happened here? Alright, invalid cast, which I can understand. Okay, so you don't like this for some reason. Because the object is not of type I convertible, which I totally understand. But what I don't like is, how do I get it to convert to T? If I have a list of T, I need help. I need some Google help. So I'm going to do C# generic convert to T. Converting from string to T. See, I'm doing that. I would suggest instead of parsing XML, you create classes that you would deserialize from. Okay. Let's do this type converter thing. I kind of like this. So back to here. So instead of doing what I'm doing here, just saying, hey, type converter, we'll say converter equals, what did you want me to do? Type descriptor dot get converter type of T. And then all I gotta do is say add converter dot convert from obj. Is that any different? Will I still crash? Let's find out. It's gonna crash again. Alright, so I'm gonna make a notepad. Notepad. Anybody? Let me type here. No? Alright, it's all broken. So, oh, I have it up here. I see it, I see it. Oh, I clicked. Notepad. Okay, so where is this happening? Thread, yep. Example main, line 29. Object 159. Alright, example game main 29. So what are we trying to do? It's at the component level, yep. Trying to find objects of type components. Alright, I'm going to stop here, hit play, and see what happens. Hit F10, got objects of type, converter, object, obj, server controller. It's a game object. Server controller is a game object. Type T. What is type T anyway? Oh no, you're actually of a component. Okay. What can I do? I don't even know. Like if I did anything, like var test equals game or just object dot find object of type component yep, fix that please. Okay, and then let's just say I stop here, which it won't even let me stop here, I'm sure. Okay, so that actually worked. Huh. Cancel. How did that work? Why did that work? That's so weird. It just lets me do that, right? Okay, find object of type. I did the other one. Find object of type. This seems to work fine. Oh, where T is of object. Maybe that's what I gotta do. Oh, yes, that's what I definitely need to do. Where T is of object. And now you know. And knowing, you don't have to do all this crazy stuff I'm trying to do. Man, I totally missed that. Thanks for the stream. Hey man, thank you for showing up, dude, and saying hi. Converter, type descriptor. I don't need to do any of this stuff. Awesome. Oh gosh, that was killing me. Alright, so that should work. Where do I go? Here? Here? Here. Oof. Oh, build errors. Sure, I'll take a look. Oh, am I running already? Might be running it. I have no idea. Okay, hit F6 again maybe? I'll close this out maybe? That's crazy. Maybe I'll close this whole thing out. Sorry, it's giving me some weird errors about how I had the DLL already open and I didn't. So close that Visual Studio, close out some apps, and I'm going to reopen it and see what happens. Alright. There we go. What's happening? Alright, at least that's a different error. So what is that error? I didn't see it. Let's look at it again. Target invocation occurred. So what happened here? Void update of server controller. I might just get rid of server controller for now while I try to figure all this out, the serialization stuff out. So yeah, give me a sec here. I think I'm just gonna get rid of the server controller. I hope that worked. Am I hitting delete? Oh, I gotta stop this. So if I get rid of server controller, may not like me anymore. May like me very much. I don't know. Alright, here's the dealio. I'm going to remove the server stuff from the object right now because I just need to get something working right now. So in my code, you can see, oh no, my scenes, my server no client. If I look at my server controller, you can see that there is a, oh, there's compile errors? I didn't even know that. That totally might be a reason why this is not working. Oh, I should have just removed it. What am I doing? Spending too much time on this. That's what happens after you start streaming for like 2 hours. Your productivity kind of goes down, so it's always good to like just say, hey, I need to stop doing what I'm doing. I'll leave those there. Okay. I'm happy with all of that. Any other errors? That's what I need to know. That's okay. Close that out. I didn't actually see any errors. I'm going to just ignore all that for now. Let's remove this. Save this. Close this. Oh, I didn't have to close it. Oh well, whatever. Is this my network engine? No, this is not the one I wanted. Let's go back to Visual Studio. Hopefully it's still in memory. It doesn't take forever to load. Maybe. It's taking too long to load. Okay, Unity Network Engine. And let's hit play. Okay, so that's running. That's great. So I'm gonna close everything but this, close all documents but this. Hit play, and we get to this point, which we should, and we'll see world update here. So world update, what do you have? You have test server as your name, 10 for your tick, 33 for your tick rate, up 16 for that. Game objects, you have server controller and sphere. And then you have 5 different components: transform, rigid body, sphere collider, and game object debug. Okay. And here we have server controller and sphere. Okay. Now, we're going to do some crazy stuff here. We're going to serialize this. So this is going to be bytes array. And we'll just call it bytes. And we're going to say world update.serialize. So this could be a little crazy. But basically we're serializing the whole scene. And we already see we ran into an issue. But that's okay. Oh, you're trying to serialize with null. That's interesting. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to try to get to the point. Oh, actually, I should have just figured out the stack trace right quick. Alright, so I'm going to hit play. This is going to stop here to null. We should have a stack trace. Call stack. So where were we calling this? At tag. Okay, so tag is null. Interesting. Not even an empty string, it was just null. So that's how I'm going to do it. And I'll fix that in the serialized version. serialize this serialize function. I'll just fix that kind of problem. So string equals null. We can put blank, otherwise it's just string. And that way you can put an empty string, and it should be a lot better. So F5. Oh my gosh, it made it all the way there. Okay. So the whole scene could be summarized in 348 bytes. Which is awesome. So the whole scene is that. If you did a calculator, say you did that maybe 10 times per second, that'd be 3.4K a second. Not too shabby. And typically you do the TCP packets every like second or 2 seconds. So that is pretty amazing. Now the next thing I want to try is world update.deserialize. So we're going to make another world. I'm going to say output world update, and this is where the magic's going to happen. Deserialize bytes. We'll just say new byte queue. Bytes. I feel like some stuff might crash, which it should. Oh, I didn't implement the quaternion deserialization. Yep, that would kinda. I'm just gonna do this a better way. List bytes. Bytes equals new list bytes. Then you can just say bytes dot add range. We're gonna have really it's just the what do I need? Just the RIJK, right? So r dot serialize bytes dot add range I dot serialize. This is just much easier. IJK. And then just return bytes dot to array. And I might just call this serialization. Then deserialization should be pretty good. You're just gonna say quaternion dot quaternion equals new quaternion, and just r equals data dot get single r quaternion dot r IJK IJK, and then we're set. Return quaternion. Pretty easy. Let's try it again. Oh. Okay. Errors in places. Quaternion does not contain a definition for serialize. Oh yeah, that was my bad. Serialize. Internal byte array serialize. Oh, but are you not internal? I gotcha. Let's not do it internal. Let's go public. Alright, so hit play there. Alright, does it go all the way or does it crash? Still crashing, that's okay. Oh, I didn't do it for this one either. Okay. I'm a jerk. Where am I serializing this? Serialize. Deserialize. I'm gonna just take this, find where I deserialize, which is up here. Actually, could just do it here, might be better. And I'm gonna do my cheating thing. List byte bytes equals new. List bytes. You don't know what that is? That's okay. We'll let you figure it out. Bytes dot add range, and this is going to be what am I doing? X dot serialize Y and Z. And then when you're taking it out, list byte, not list byte, and I'm not done here. Bytes return bytes dot as array or to array, and I might just make use serialization. Why not? Vector 3 equals new vector 3. What's that? Oh yeah, that's okay. We're about to assign you right now. Vector 3 dot x equals data dot get single. Vector 3 dot y equals data dot get single. Vector 3 dot z equals data dot get single. Turn vector 3. Okay, now we're gonna play this, and maybe we'll run into another exception, and that's okay. Or maybe we'll have an error, and that's okay too. Alright, I want to know what object this is. Will you tell me? I'm going to cheat here, just for a little bit of debugging. String tname equals t.getType dot name, or dot toString. Does it look like I care? Type of t dot toString. Bam. So it's going to crash, yeah, but we'll have tname at least. What is tname? Game object. Okay. Yeah, you do. Don't lie. I just made that. Game object, internal constructor. What if I made you public then? Public constructor. Call stack, please. Find or create. So that is the problem here. Oh, instance ID 0. That doesn't sound likely. Alright, let's go back to where we are. Here? So we went wrong somewhere because we got a 0 where I don't think we're supposed to get a 0. So it's obviously there. It's when we're getting the list of game objects. Okay, so why don't we do that? We'll go here. So let's see our world update, right? The test server worked fine, tick worked fine, tick rate, update rate worked fine. Even the components seem to be okay. Transform components. Alright, that looks pretty good. There would be 2 transform, a rigid body, and a sphere collider, so that's great. So it did all the components just fine. So let's step through the game objects. So it's going to make a new deserialization, that's cool. How many game objects? That does not seem right. So we are already screwed up somehow. That number is way too big. Yeah, so we obviously have the wrong number here. So I guess we have to actually look at the component part first, just to make sure we're ending correctly. So here we go. Yes, the component. So jump in. How many components? 5 components. Okay, great. So okay, data right now is 3. So if I jump in here, class reference, it's going to be a type transform. So I'm going to jump in here. No problem. Going to go ahead and add that. Alright, so the next component. It was of type transform, another ID, perfect. Rigid body, great. Sphere collider, awesome. So I have 2 game objects, and I think that's where this is screwing up. So, so when we're serializing, that's what I need to figure out. So when I'm serializing this list of components, oh, I know what to do. That's what we gotta do. We gotta have in this class reference ID. I think what I'm gonna do is this first one is just gonna be null. So where's components? Did I lose it already? Alright, jump in here. Component.serialize. I'm going to return, yes, the int class ID reference dot null dot serialize. because you have to serialize something, and then when you pass it in here, it won't know what it is, so it's okay. Okay, shoot. Let's go back here. So we know once we jump in here, this works okay for like the first four. So transform. The next component is another transform, a rigid body. This next one's going to be a sphere collider. Okay, and finally, this last one is just going to be a null. Which is okay. Hopefully data is now on 2. Yep. And we can continue onwards into here. And so now when we get count, we got 2. Perfect. And then we can see that the I didn't set active yet. Okay. Active self equals true. Equals value, sorry, yep. Active in hierarchy equals value. Okay, then play this. Sorry. That's good. That works fine. Alright, F10, F11, F10, F10, F10. I'm going to do the first one. Alright, just on my own. Walking through it. Find or create. I think it created one, but I can't tell. I guess it found it because that's okay. Object hide flags, prefab, serialized version, components. So layer, string, that's set active. Okay, so that worked fine. So okay, we finally got this output world update. So let's see what it did and compare it to actually our world update. So there's less components, but there is let's see, the other stuff seems fine. So name is test server, so that's good. 10, 10, 33, 33, 16, 16. Game objects seem okay. And I'll just preface that saying seem okay. Okay, components. So I'm guessing game object debug did not have a serializer, so it just went null. And the components here, so I only got the transform, rigid body, rigid body. Okay. Let's kind of look at one. Actually, I'd rather look at the one that's on the game object. So like the game object sphere. Oh, you only have 0 components? Huh. Oh, you do have a transform component though. So it's at -7. So if I look at the transfer component on this sphere, yeah, it's the same. Okay, good. So it's at least using the same right transform and everything. What I'm worried about is the components. I don't like that. So let's look at that part when we are deserializing this part. Yeah. Oops. I'm gonna say play here. Don't really care about those things. I just want to stop where I said. Okay, so right now if I look at server controller and I look at components, what do I see? You have one component, transform. Makes sense, because you're the server controller. Okay, so let's jump in here. We're gonna say, okay, deserialization. Get int for int01, so we got one component. Let's jump into deserialize. Object type is not right. So why is that the case? Why did it go crazy? Get list of components. Component.deserialize. I think what's happening is, okay, I'm using this list of components. Find references, right? Find all references. I use it here in world update. And I'm also using it in game object. But I think in game object, I need to say get component IDs. Get list component IDs. Would that be accurate? Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm gonna have to get it from the IDs. So that makes sense. Okay. So there's gonna be two different deserializations from the component. Just one getting the IDs for the game object, and one getting the actual components. So wherever serialization is, so I got get list of components. I'm gonna just copy this. Paste this, get list components from IDs, and so it's gonna be similar. We're gonna have this, except here I'm just say component dot find object of instance ID data dot get int32. And it's going to be components. So serialize and the get from instance ID serialize. Alright, so on my game object, I'm going to say get list of components from IDs. So okay, I'm going to stop here again. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to jump in here. Deserialization, yep. Get the ID. There's only one, no problem. component. Awesome, you got a component, you add it, and there you go. Okay, so that seems great. Now I'm going to pause somewhere, hopefully here. Yes. Okay, and then we can look at output world update. The other thing that happened is, sure, we got our components now, but we lost one because you're not really supposed to serialize and deserialize in the same set of objects. So that's kind of caveat to using my serialize engine, because if you don't have that, I wonder if I could just union the list. So, okay. When I am going to game object here, components dot union. Maybe. Maybe union. Probably better. Maybe union. Probably better new list. I just don't know. So here I'm on read key. So now my other game object should still have the 4. Okay. So everyone has all their game objects is what I'm seeing. Alright, good. So that is output world update. So okay, cool. So what we did here is we created this packet or this class called world update, and we're able to put a name, some ints, a list of components, and a list of game objects, serialize that whole thing. The whole thing takes 352 bytes, and then we can deserialize it. So that is pretty nifty. So later we can use that in a network, so that all we have to do is just wrap this around some kind of terminators or something as a packet, put this inside, and then take it out. And we got it. Okay. I think that's going to be it for me for tonight. So, yes. So, yes is the right thing to say. I'm going to close this. Open up source tree. Get this episode. Working copy. So we created serialization slash serialize slash deserialize functions in most basic objects, like game object, transform, etc. So that's good. What else did we do? So just looking at all of this stuff. really want to delete that one. Can I just delete this class? I'll do it later. Player scripts, Unity scene reader. Yeah, I guess that's all I was really doing. Okay. So it's not letting me click on anything for some reason. There we go. That's all I did this episode. It was a long episode to do all that, but it had to be done. So, okay, cool. I'm going to commit this, and that will be a wrap. Alright, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you had a good time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.